Welcome to Daily Dose Radio, a 5-minute devotional podcast studying the Psalms verse by verse. Broadcast from the ever-beautiful Sharonville, Ohio, on the sunny side of Cincinnati. Hey, welcome back to Daily Dose Radio. You found it. This is the finest Bible bistro on the internet, Daily Dose Radio. Welcome. Come on in. Sit down. We've got some great, fresh Bible study for you today. Looking this week at Psalm 14. We're going to treat all of Psalm 14 this week. And as I said at the end of last week, we're going to look at the fool. He's introduced to us here. Now, we've already seen the foolish mentioned in Psalm 5, verse 5. We had the foolish mentioned, and it wasn't a good mention, as you can imagine. Now we have the fool specifically mentioned, and we have him in the Psalms 5 times. The fool is seen 5 times in the Psalter. And this psalm is unique because we have it also in, at least most of it, in Psalm 53. Psalm 53 departs a little bit from Psalm 14 in the last two and a half verses. We'll get to that when we come to the end of the week, and I'll talk a little bit about that then. But you can look forward to seeing these words again in the 53rd Psalm, which makes me wonder if this isn't very important for us to get. And let's just read today verse 1. We'll start off with verse 1. In verse 1, we begin with a simple introduction of the choir master of David. Well, we had that last time too. We see it again here. The choir master has collected this. This is a psalm that David wrote. The choir master is using it, putting it to music. And here we have it in the Psalter, Psalm 14. Let me continue verse 1. The fool has said in his heart, there is no God. They are morally corrupt. They have done abominable deeds. There are none that does good. All right, let's begin with the first phrase. The fool has said in his heart, there is no God. Are we talking about an atheist here? Well, it could be an atheist. Anyone who says there is no God, and they say it in their heart, that is, that they believe it. I mean, it's not just something that they're repeating. This is not rote or something that they've memorized, but they're actually believing that there is no God. Well, that person is a fool. And that judgment is not mine. It's not cruel. This comes straight from heaven, and we have it twice, as I said, in the Psalter. So it's as important. Anytime we see something twice, you need to sit up and pay attention. And we have it twice here in the Psalms. Watch out now, because God means for us to get this. The fool has said in his heart, there is no God. So, ladies and gentlemen, there is the judgment of heaven. And then we come to the second part of verse 1. They are morally corrupt. They have done abominable deeds. There are none that does good. This portion of the first verse, all the way down through verse 4, is repeated or actually adopted by Paul when he's writing in the book of Romans, in Romans chapter 3. So in Romans chapter 3, verses 10 through 12, we have these words copied by the writer in the book of Romans, the Apostle Paul. And we'll talk a little bit more tomorrow as we get into the meat of this. And let me just give you a little background on it. The Apostle in verses 10 through 12 in Romans chapter 3 copies here from Psalm 14 because he's making an argument. We'll talk about that tomorrow. And also he quotes from this psalm, but he continues in verses 13 through 18 to quote from Psalm 14. However, what is quoted is not in the classic text. Paul is quoting from the Septuagint, and the Septuagint text that he quotes from has additional language that we don't have here in the Hebrew text. So we'll look at that a little bit as well, what's there that we don't have. But what's here is important for us to grasp. I hope you'll join me tomorrow as we look at verses 2 and 3, the body of Paul's argument. So join me then on Daily Dose Radio. Thanks for listening to Daily Dose Radio. I'm David Smith. The music today has been performed by the Bluegrass Experiment. Thanks again for listening. I'll see you next time on Daily Dose Radio.